I've always gotten a sense from people who've had to listen to me critique movies and shows, a sense of aggravation at why I'm asking so many questions instead of just taking the story as told.
It's so hard to be your friend.
Yeah.
I never start a story looking to pick it apart. That's not fun. I watch what I do because I want to be told a story. I want to believe a story. And that's what I want to talk about today. How stories lose me, and how it might have a similar effect on you, you just don't consciously know it yet. At its core, telling a story is lying to people for their own amusement. You know when you watch Doctor Who that it's insane fantasy. You accept that. And writers know that. It's no secret that writers are effectively playing God, making their own worlds with their own rules, and things always work out in a way that makes sense to their internal beliefs, ideologies, and politics, whether overtly or subconsciously. So what makes people become critics of media that casual viewers otherwise enjoy? Well, like most interactions between two people, a sense of respect is necessary in mutual lying. If I walked up to you and said that my dog farted rainbows and sincerely expected you to believe me, you'd likely think I was an asshole for insulting your intelligence.
That makes me mad.
No one likes being lied to their face and being presumed to accept it. But most shows and movies we watch do this to us consistently without most viewers noticing. Even though he doesn't talk about this concept specifically, most of H. Bomber Guy's essays involving narratives focus on this concept and when it's done poorly. He talks about how Sherlock kept promising there was some incredible game of wits being played that nobody could comprehend, but in reality they were just jerking everyone around with mysteries that never went anywhere beyond telling people they were stupid for expecting an answer, then presenting a new set of dangling keys to distract people from getting upset.
The show opens with a relatively interesting setup and it concludes by telling you it made all of it up and it's a lie. And that's the running theme of this episode, nay, this entire show. Relatively clever setups that imply something cool's gonna happen, and then it fucking undoes itself. Oh my god, Sherlock actually hallucinated a confession and he actually has a problem. No. Holy shit, they just fucking killed off Sherlock. How are they Oh, he's fine. Oh, alright. Oh my god, Moriarty's back and he's got some cool plan and he can hack all the things in London. No, he can't. He's not even in this story. What makes season 4 in particular so disliked by fans isn't that it's that much worse than the rest of the show, although it is. It's that at this point people are starting to realize that all these setups will have no payoff.
His Fallout 3 video talks about how a series with a nuanced set of cultures, warring ideologies, and complicated moral dilemmas were contorted into a two-dimensional world where there are simple good guys and bad guys, and you don't have to internally wrestle with virtually anything you do.
You have to engage him as a reasonable person. It's impossible for him to be talked down on moral grounds. He doesn't care, because for him, the mutants are the future of mankind, and the ends justify the means. The only way to talk him down is to explain why the plan wouldn't work. Eventually, you can find through Vree that the mutants are sterile, and she gives you the evidence that proves this is the case.
But it cannot be. This would mean that
All my work.
has been for nothing.
Pick a cartoon character, or kill them both. Nuke a town for no reason, or don't. Ask Tenpenny Tower not to be racist, or fucking murder a bunch of innocent ghouls for no reason.
It's fine for anyone who never played a Fallout game before 3, but for those who did, the sense of a coherent world you've been dropped into is shattered. The lie is obvious and lacks a respect for your ability to remember anything from what you've previously experienced. And all that's left is reality, that you're playing a game that claims it's in the same universe as one you love, but it's actually just a toy some people programmed. It tells you you're good and cool in an uncomplicated world with set dressing of a more fleshed out one. It's a farce, and now you know it because they didn't care to hide it better. They aren't holding up their end of the deception bargain, so why should you? It can be hard to talk about popular media betraying the audience without shifting people into emotional defenses where they stop hearing what you're saying, so let's use an example that should be relatively safe. It surprises people, now at least, to hear that I was stoked for the Disney Star Wars movies. I had put together a full Kylo Ren costume before The Force Awakens even came out. I will never do that again, and you'll soon learn why. And it's not just because I legit scared the shit out of my partner when I wore it for her. I sat in the theater, waiting to be whisked away to one of my favorite science fiction worlds. I watched the table be set, with a new rebellion working in the shadows. But why? The Empire was shattered. Why is there still a scrappy rebellion 30 years later? Oh hey, Kylo Ren showed up. Who does he work with? Why do they have such fancy ships? Are they in charge of the galaxy? Why? If not, how do they pay for all their hardware and soldiers? I hope this movie starts explaining the status quo so I can start caring about anything happening on the screen. But before that could happen, a single moment would derail the rest of the movie for me. It was the laser blast heard round my brain! The single beam of light that portended the tragic future of this trilogy. Kylo Ren stops a gunshot in midair. I didn't notice this until I was editing this together, but has anybody else noticed that they added a lion roar to Kylo? I can't not laugh every time. Like, why? Why would you do that? He's got tiger blood in it. What is this? Why? There, fixed it. I was amazed. This conveyed massive importance to the Star Wars universe as a whole. What were they going to do with this shocking moment? And right about now, you're likely going, what's the big damn deal? It's a laser blast floating in the air. You're really freaking out over this minor moment that doesn't seem to mean anything? Well, let me try to get you into my headspace. Be sure to put on a hard hat because it isn't safe for anyone in here.
No, son of a...
I don't love watching the prequel trilogy, but I adore thinking about it. Even if you hate the prequels, I haven't met anyone who doesn't agree that they feel connected to the original trilogy in a way that the Disney movies do not. That's largely because George Lucas actually did different things in them, as if the world actually changes over time and doesn't just loop around itself over and over like a game franchise just trying to milk people for more money. That was a little bit of an aside. Whole different video. The aspect of the Lucas movies that are subtle but intensely necessary to create a cohesive, believable world is consistency. In stories, something doesn't have to correlate with our reality to believe it. You just have to be consistent in how you portray your fictional reality for your audience to accept it. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm making a movie where every time someone claps their hands, confetti falls on their head. That's a silly thing that no one would believe in real life. But if I show that happening to someone and everyone in the story treats that as the common expected outcome of clapping their hands, you'll accept that that's just a thing in this world. You can accept it. But if I later show an entire audience clapping with zero confetti falling on them, that shows an incongruity. Your brain is now trying to make sense of the information that can exist together. Does clapping make confetti or not? Are they going to explain why there wasn't confetti in that scene? Did they do that on purpose and we'll explain it later? Or did they just not think through what they were doing? Before you know it, an entire scene has passed that you weren't paying attention to because you're thinking more about the people that made it than the story that they want to tell you. Now you might be thinking, but Axel, I get what you're saying that this laser blast distracted you, but it's a very minor thing to get held up on. You can't blame the movie for you fixating on a moment like that. I assume that's how you talk? And you'd be right, as long as you disregard that 6 of the biggest movies of all time make this moment an abomination that wrecks the Star Wars canon. That might be hyperbole. Might. But I'm still going to explain. Say what you want about midichlorians, but they truly never bothered me. There's plenty of readings on what they are or whether they had... There's plenty of readings on what they are or whether There's plenty of readings on what they are and whether they have any real significance to a Jedi or their ability. We have real tests that measure intelligence and strength and leadership abilities, but they're never absolute, even if people try to treat them like they are. They have blind spots and can be flawed. We can probably measure how much water is in your body, but it might not be a perfect indicator of how hydrated you are. However, if you are conceived by nothing except water being willed into sentient life, that might have some significance. Anakin Skywalker was portrayed to be the equivalent of Jesus Christ, immaculate conception and all. He was created purely by midichlorians, and from then on, we see how he excels at his abilities with the Force beyond anyone else. It comes naturally to him, starting to learn later than most and surpassing them in mere years.
I am truly thankful to be his apprentice. In some ways, a lot of ways, I'm really ahead of him.
He is portrayed by 3 movies to be one of, if not the strongest Jedis the Order had ever seen up until that point. His existence was literally prophesized. The movies use shorthand for things we already recognize through our religions and our general cultures. There's a base understanding at the importance of this character, regardless of blood, regardless of midichlorians. And yet, with all the impressive feats we saw him cockily pull off in 3 movies, he could never suspend a laser blast in the air for an entire scene while dinking around with his bros. And don't say, that's not inconsistent, we just never saw anyone do that. Wrong. In Empire Strikes Back, Han Solo fires at Darth Vader, and Vader cups the lasers. He just catches them. He negates them, but that's all. That's the best he can do. And he's in the same room. And don't say maybe Darth Vader didn't want to. He's a fucking space Nazi. Oh yeah, try not to think of that the next time you buy a coffee mug with your favorite fictional Nazi on it. Anyway, the Empire works like fascists. They consistently pick the most intimidating tactic to demoralize their enemies. That's why he wears that suit. They blow up a damn planet just to spook whoever might hear about it. If Vader could suspend a gunshot in the air just to flex, he would have. So what does this say about Kylo Ren? He must be the most powerful Jedi yet. How could he get so powerful? I couldn't wait to find out. He's Han and Leia's son. Han and Luke's son would be... I would see that movie. Oh... He's Han and Leia's son. Well, that doesn't explain anything, because Luke was Space Nazi Jesus' son, and that only gave him enough Jedi juice to be competent. Star Wars movies made clear that this isn't a Dragon Ball Z situation where mixed offspring of powerful species are inherently more powerful than their parents. So, why was he able to do this? Over halfway through the movie, I was still waiting for an explanation. And even more poorly defined aspects of this universe were piling up. Who's in charge here? Then it happened. The scene. The moment that I finally understood what I was watching and that nothing would ever be the same. Rey mutters to herself that she must be a Jedi. And just starts mind controlling people.
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
And you'll drop your weapon?
And I'll drop my weapon.
Immediately. Just like that. Again, let me remind you, the literal son of this universe is equivalent to Super Jesus saw someone mind control people and couldn't do it himself until years later.
I can't understand how we got by those troops. I thought we were dead. The Force can have a strong influence.
And she didn't even see anyone do that before she tried. There's no reason for her to just inherently know that's something Jedi can do. In fairness, this was something that annoyed me about The Empire Strikes Back, too. But at least with The Empire Strikes Back, several years passed between movies where we didn't see what he was doing the entire time. He had time to learn that. We've been with Rey pretty much from the second this all started. There's no reason for her to just assume that a Jedi can do this. If there's one thing Star Wars has always been meticulously consistent about, it's that being a Jedi, no matter how naturally adept you are, takes years and years of intense training.
It's too old. Yes, too old to begin the training. Jedi.
must have the deepest commitment. The most serious mind.
He will not be trained.
No.
He is too old.
There's plenty of room in the canon to say that virtually anyone can become a Jedi if they work hard enough and are willing to expand their mind. But the one thing they are very clear on is that you can't just will yourself into using the Force because you really need to. And then the entirety of this movie and all of its crippling flaws were laid before me. There was no reason Kylo could do something so incredible. And there couldn't possibly be an explanation that would make Rey make any sense in the context of the 6 other movies. I accepted what became more painfully clear after Rise of Skywalker. That J.J. Abrams just made it like this because he thought it would be cool, and didn't actually understand the universe he was given control over. I felt like I was going crazy, that this stuff didn't bother anyone else. But it didn't matter. This was their starting point. And the disconnect from the universe it claimed to be a continuation of could only get worse when continuing from such a misguided point. This is a universal signal for bad storytelling. Even when you don't consciously notice it, I truly believe that it's a big factor in why some movies that you initially enjoy slowly fade from your memory. Even when you want to revisit them, you just can't get yourself to sit through it again.
Has anyone ever told you what a drag you are? Everyone. Constantly.
Storytelling is a deception both parties mutually agree upon. When someone is telling you their own story, all that's at stake is your trust in them to hold up their end of the deal. But when someone is given the exclusive reign to a galaxy that has managed to have a cohesive believability, despite being added to unendingly across over 35 years, you have a responsibility to maintain that cohesion. It's a rare achievement that very few creations ever reach. It's one of the biggest factors that made Star Wars so special. If you've ever drawn anything that you were so proud of that you kept adding and tweaking until it was worse than what it was, you know that the magic of what you sullied can never be undone. Star Wars can still be good. There is some decent Star Wars media being made right now, and that stuff might be enthralling and entertaining. But one thing it can't ever be again is special.